Underneath it all, who are we sexually? Bible, cufflinks, and stilettos, with Giselle St. James. For mature audiences only. Thank you for joining us for the continuation of this episode. Please enjoy the program and don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe.
A very common form of sex therapy is called sensate focus, and it helps women pay attention to how she responds to sexual touch. First, by touching herself, and then by guiding her husband's hand or his actions as he touches her. This can be an important step. Listen to this part. This can be an important step in healing, particularly for women who have experienced sexual trauma that triggers anxiety at sexual touch. Wow. Sensate focus. So it helps you to deal with the whole idea of being touched. So for women who would have gone through, rape, women who might have gone through sexual abuse, who they don't really know how to have someone touch them. That's a therapeutic way in having that healed, having that part of them healed by starting with yourself first and then teaching your husband or guiding your husband in how he needs to touch you. That's powerful. That is powerful. Yes, Satin, that is powerful. But how much is too much? You are welcome, eWorship Connect. Now, Felicia Masonheimer, writer of the blog Every Woman a Theologian, provides her answer to this question by highlighting some principles at play that can help us to see God's heart on this. Now, masturbation can be addictive. As we had said, once you open that door, it's very hard to close it back. And you have to now look at the fact, is it mastering you? No pun intended there. Is the masturbation mastering you? Is it that every single day you have to think about it? Every single day you have to do it? Sometimes when you're out in public, it just happens and you have to go rush off to do it. Is it that in order to relax? And I know that some persons use masturbation to relax. Listen, Chelsea Handler from, sheknows.com in that article, she's one of them that says that, listen to me, to deal with my stress, persons are telling me, meditate. And, sometimes she gets the 2 M's messed up and she masturbates. I mean, it starts with 2 M's. So why not just keep at it? Because it does the same thing that meditation does. So sometimes we use masturbation as a stress relief. But is it that you're doing it all the time as a stress reliever? Is it that it's consuming your thoughts more than 90% of the time? When you realize that that is the case, then yeah, maybe it's too much right there. It is consuming everything you do. And you find, I remember Apostle Faith was sharing a story last week about a couple who was having sex and the man could not climax until he would have masturbated himself to an orgasm. Can you imagine how that woman probably would have felt? I can't make my husband come. I can't bring him there by just virtue of the goodness that the Lord has blessed me with. I can't bring him to that. He has to masturbate himself to get there. Not to mention Jada, when she was talking about on the red table that I don't need my husband. So she don't really need her husband to get there, to please herself. Listen to me. On top of all of that, it was her grandmother. It was her grandmother who introduced her to masturbation at the age of 9. So when you are introduced to something like that, really and truly, what you're going to say is, I don't need my husband. I don't need my husband to be satisfied. Where does the intimacy come in there? When you don't need your partner, you don't need your spouse to achieve orgasm. Now, let me just read what she says, Jada Pinkett. She says, in 2018, she talked about masturbation with her regular show co-stars, mother Adrienne Banfield Norris and daughter Willow Smith. And she says she wasn't afraid to get candid. She says, I came into knowledge about sex differently. My grandmother taught me about self-pleasuring because she wanted me to know that the pleasure was from me, she said. She didn't want me to fall into the hands of a man, and if he gave me pleasure, to think that it was him. And she taught me at 9 years old. At 9 years old. Can you imagine? And the whole context about her grandmother telling her that she didn't want her to, when she did achieve climax, she didn't want it to seem like it's from a man. She didn't want that. Hey, Lady Faith, how are you? Hello, hello, hello. Yes. And it was something that when you think about it, you're basically looking at the fact that I don't need a man to achieve climax. I don't need a man to get there on my own. I don't need a man to feel pleasure. But it's good. It's good to know what pleases you. It's good to know what touches will get you there. It's really good. It's really good to own your pleasure as well. Yes, Satin Brownie. In that way, it's positive to own your pleasure, to know what satisfies you, and know that if anything were supposed to happen, at least you can definitely satisfy yourself. Satin Brownie says, I don't think she was saying that she didn't value having a man to do it with her, but that she's saying that sometimes we allow the man to own our pleasure. Yes, and it is very important for us to own our own pleasure. It's very important. So, in a way, we can see where when we engage in masturbation, even if we're in our marriages, that's a way to say, okay, this is something that I can give myself, and I can also teach my husband how to give it to me. But as we would have said, there is a time where sometimes it's too much. When it consumes your thoughts, when you realize that, listen, at no point do I need my husband to give me this pleasure, then that's where the breakdown comes in. So, in order to see if it is too much, think about if your masturbation is mastering you. Now, remember that also these habits that we form of masturbating, it sometimes turns our minds to lust. You know, sometimes we might think it's innocent and we see a nice thing down the road, or a man with nice upper body and dark skin and tall with deep voice, and all of a sudden we start to think about him and what we want to do to him. We want to climb him like a tree. And we find that when we go in every night, we're thinking about climbing this man like a tree, and we achieve orgasm. All of a sudden, every time we see this man, we start to think about the little masturbation session we did have the night before with the pink wand. And you can't not see this man in that light. And every time we see him, it's like we get hot and bothered. Every time you see her with her nice shape, you get all hot and bothered and you get an erection. And it's like you just need to take care of yourself. You're in your meeting and you can't sit still because the boy gets up on you. Because she's right there, so. All we think about is the lustfulness. So the things that we want to do. And as persons who want to remain pure and holy, sometimes those things are the things that cause us to sin. So we have to look at what the masturbation does to us. So when we do that, the little lustful thoughts that we start to have about others, especially if we're married and the person that we're thinking about in our masturbation sessions is not our husbands or our wives. Think about it. Oh, I like what you're saying, Satin. I think men have a spiritual hold on you once you have sex. And for me personally, when I think sex, I only think with a man. But I wish I had learned self pleasure. But I just don't see myself doing that. Not because it's wrong, but because I didn't learn about it to appreciate it. Whoa. And listen, Satin, it's not just you. It's a lot of persons who are out there who feels like, okay, sex should not happen unless it's with someone else. They don't realize that I can bring myself pleasure too. I can get there. I need to know how to touch me, because I would have said in earlier episodes, we need to know how to please ourselves or what brings us pleasure so that we can communicate this to the person that God gives us. Can you imagine you're in the bedroom marriage day and no one know what to touch, no one know what to put anywhere? At least you are so off fait with your body. You'll know, say, all right, babe, touch me here. When you touch my neck, I get a little feeling. When you touch my breasts, when you hold them, when you play with them, I get a little feeling. When you play with my clitoris, I get a feeling. Because we would have already known that about our bodies. You know, when we have a car, ladies and gentlemen, we try to test out everything. What does this button do? What does that button do? It's the same for our bodies. We need to know what's there so that if we are with someone who is probably inexperienced, at least we can tell them what to do. But we have to be careful too, the path we go down where that is concerned. Because too much can be detrimental to us. And I don't even want to bring in anything spiritual now. For us as persons, personally, when we go down a road of overstimulation of our bodies, it takes our mind away from the design of sex. And what's the design of sex? A pleasure between two people, don't it? When we engage in it too much, we realize that, okay, but if I can do this, I really don't need somebody. And what is the design of sex? I repeat, pleasure between two people. You get what I'm saying? So we have to be careful when we talk about self-love and self-pleasure that we don't X out the person that we're supposed to be having it with. All right, Satin Brownie, I see that. You get what Jada is saying. Not because I don't need him, but that even with sex with him, I am the one giving myself the pleasure, not just him pleasuring me. This is truly important to understand. I thought he gave me pleasure, but when I think about it, it is I and the God in me that gives me the pleasure. He contributes to it, but is not the creator of it. Okay. Enlightening. He contributes to it. But sex is also a two people thing. It is a two people thing. So that's something that we don't want to necessarily forget. It is explosive when two people with a like mind who are committed to each other's pleasure, when them come together and they create this music. It's so magical and it's a worship between two bodies, and it creates something so amazing, so pleasurable. So right then and there, it is not a, oh, he brought me pleasure. Nah, we brought each other pleasure, and that is so powerful. We brought each other pleasure. So I am committed to his pleasure. He's committed to mine. Yes, I can please myself, but it is so much more powerful when we look at the fact that, all right, if I'm committed to his pleasure, this is what I'm going to do. That is why sometimes people engage in things like even mutual masturbation. When we both do something to get the other person to climax. Mutual masturbation is one of those things that is a great communication tool. It's a good way to learn about your partner's body. It's a very good way to see what buttons you need to touch. It's a great way to, without penetration, without none of them things there, to learn what it is that your partner likes. All right, Satin Brownie said, and that way we value him, but not forget to value self as well. Yes, because I went celibate after my first relationship. I only wanted it with him, even though we were not married. I thought the pleasure came from him. Learning this, we can understand. We can have pleasure with multiple people because it begins with us. Yeah. Now, Apostle Faith says, when you take a vow of marriage, their sexuality became intimately tied to your husband. And that's in 1 Corinthians 7, verse 4. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's definitely one thing that we don't even realize. It says that our pleasure belongs to that person. So even if we know what pleases us, why don't we give the person the tools to touch us the way that we touch ourselves? We can give the person those tools. That's how, in that way, masturbation can help us. But when we totally take the person out of the equation, you kind of mess up the design of how sex should be. As I said, it should be two people bringing each other pleasure and creating magic. But in times when you are alone, what is a Satin Brownie? In those times when you're probably alone and him gone, so you're not waiting on him, sitting like a sitting dog, having these urges. I don't know what to do because, oh, my husband not here. so I can't do anything about it. Call him up. Talk to him. And say, baby, what you wearing? What's the color of your boxers? Yeah, man. Call him up and say, babe, remember that one you gave me? I have it right now. I miss you so much. I'm wearing your shirt, your t-shirt. And I'm in bed and I'm just thinking about you. And I just need you, but you're not here for me. And you get something going. And you bring yourself that pleasure that he's not there to help to give you. So in marriage, let's not see masturbation as something that's wrong and it's bad and it's taboo and, oh, I shouldn't be doing that because I'm married. No, man. It's fun. And it's a way not just to enhance the intimacy between you, but it's a way to enhance the communication. It's a way to get to know each other's bodies. But for those persons who are single and who probably wondering, okay, how am I going to get through this? What am I going to do when it becomes too much? If you can engage yourself in other things that can help to take your mind off of it, think about creating something. Because sometimes the football don't work. Sometimes watching YouTube don't work. Sometimes, like church people like to say, go read the Bible, go pray. Sometimes it don't work. Channel all of that restless energy into something that you can create. I've heard of someone who actually started writing lyrics and poetry. Some powerful stuff just to deal with those urges. And once them start writing, them just write and go on, you find that it takes the focus off of it. Because the more you feed something, the hungrier it gets. Did you know that? The more you feed something, the hungrier it gets. But if you starve it, the less you will want it. So we have to get to a point where we start starving those urges to always masturbate, always masturbate, always masturbate. We need to find a way to stop giving it that attention, because it's like a monster that once you feel like, say, all right, I'm handle it today, tomorrow, 2 heads come up. And I'm not talk about the man them that has a little second head right there. The urges get harder to control. The more you do it, the more you feed it. Everything in moderation, Satin Brownie. Do not let masturbation master you. I see Satin Brownie have some tips here. Read, work, walk. When the feeling comes, do not feed it. Do something, engage in a fruitful conversation. It works. And I'm guessing you're talking from experience right there, Satin. Yeah, see it there? You do that. That's right. Yes. Apostle Faith says, as Christians and married, we have to keep a balance in our lives. We can't overdo it, because then it can get distorted. Very, very true. Very, very true. Satin Brownie says, be honest with yourself about your feelings, then decide how to manage it. Don't pretend like it is not happening. And we like to do that a lot. We do that. We hide our head in the sand like it not happened. But we have to be honest with ourselves that, listen, this is a problem. And because it's a problem, I need to deal with it. Young people, they don't have places that they can go. They don't have anyone that they can talk to about these things. And I think that is what gets a lot of our young Christians so down and out, and they feel like sex in and of itself is something bad because of how the church presents it. All right? Pretending is the worst thing to do. Yes, Satin Brownie. Be honest, talk about it. Don't be ashamed about the feelings God gave you. And yes, it is. We have a tendency to think that sex and anything concerning it, the desires that it comes with, is wrong because our church has taught us over and over and over sex is wrong or sex outside of marriage is wrong, and we keep on preaching that narrative, but we don't look at the fact, Satin Brownie says it, sex and sexuality is beautiful. It's beautiful. We don't talk about that. So we find that when we are talking with our kids, we're thou shalt not, don't do this, oh my God, you are a sinner. And we make what people them feel so disgusting and disgusted with themselves. As church family, we need to create that open, honest, accountable space for our young people and for our adults to talk about the things that they face, even if they don't want to talk about it in a group. There has to be somebody that they can talk to about the things that they're going through.
Underneath it all, who are we sexually? Bible, cufflinks, and stilettos, with Giselle St. James. For mature audiences only.